right, Eric. So when we go out on the job, we always have at least one or two questions that we need answered. Like today, going on line ahead was, is the instability, how bad is it? If it snows a foot, are we going to be at a warning? But when you're not working and you're heading out, what kind of questions do you ask yourself?
Yeah, when I go in the backcountry, I kind of have two questions that are front and center, right at the
every day?
Forefront. Every day when I go into the backcountry, I want to know,
where's my lunch?
One, where's my coffee? Two, where's my lunch? Because we know we make better decisions when we're warm and fed.
That's right.
So keep that in mind. Be warm and not hungry when you're traveling an avalanche terrain. But when I go out, I'm asking two basic yet very important questions. And one is, am I in avalanche terrain? And is the terrain capable of producing an avalanche? And two, can the snow slide? Is it stable or unstable?
So terrain and then snowpack is kind of what you're getting at.
Terrain and snowpack, yep. Right. And it sounds easy. Yeah. All I need to do is, if you can answer those two questions effectively, you're essentially going to have a safe day in the backcountry. But it's a lot trickier than it sounds.
What's the harder of the two to answer, do you think? For not so much for you, but for the average person, which do you think is the harder question to answer?
I think they're both pretty difficult. I think with snow, it's so variable that it can be stable on one slope and unstable on another. So you may find a spot where you feel it's stable, you move to a different aspect or elevation, and the snowpack is unstable. So I think that's pretty tricky.
Yeah.
But also with terrain, we know when the snowpack is unstable that you can trigger slopes from a distance or low down on the slope, and you're not actually thinking you're in avalanche terrain at the time. So the combination of the two can be actually pretty difficult to answer.
I mean, when I look at the last, I guess we'll say three years at avalanche fatalities, and we ask ourselves, well, why are people dying? Around here, a common thread that we're seeing is, especially with motorized users, is they're failing to identify avalanche terrain. They're good at identifying the terrain when it's large, when it's kind of big slopes, open slopes. But on the smaller slopes, especially when we're talking about at the bottom of slopes where you might feel safe and feel like you're not in avalanche terrain, that is killing a lot of people. And I know we talk about it a lot, and that's, as an educator, that's actually one of the hardest things, to get across to people, is how, and this for skiers as well, just how small a slope can be to still be deadly.
It's complicated.
It is.
And it's tough.
But I agree, those are the two primary questions, can the snow slide, and am I in avalanche terrain? If you can answer those, you're probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah, but you can literally move from one location, you can move 50 feet, and you may be in a completely different environment than you were when you asked that question just a second ago. So
it brings
asking that question, multiple times an hour or during your ride is helpful.
I think of Tyler Stetson a lot. Tyler was in Beehive, was skinning with a friend, and they knew the avalanche danger was bad, so they had that snowpack question answered. They knew the snowpack was bad.
It was a considerable danger.
It was a considerable danger, and they were doing well staying out of avalanche terrain, and then there was just one small, it was the top of a larger slope, but it was just a 15-foot crossing at the most that they had to make in avalanche terrain, and that's when it broke, when he crossed it, and unfortunately it killed him. But I think of him a lot with the avalanche terrain piece, because it's so easy, like you just said, to go out another 15 feet, 50 feet, or it was 15.
15 feet.
It can be nothing. So it is. It's subtle, and it's a hard one to grasp.
Yeah, and you can make 20 good decisions at the start of the day and recognize all those variables and signs that you need to recognize, and then you make one wrong decision, offsets all the good decisions you made, and it's easy just to, that's why it's so important to be able to answer those questions correctly all the time.
It's kind of like life. You make 20 great decisions in life, and you're feeling good, and then you make one bad one.
It's not always
so
fair.
Good. Not always fair.